Yellow Springs Board of Education. I'd like to welcome everybody and let you know this is our first evening of live streaming. So, hello everyone.
We definitely need a band now. That's what
That's right. We don't have John Baptiste. Anyway, we are missing 2 board members this evening. Sylvia is missing because she is ill, and Evan is missing because he was not able to attend. So this is who we have. And we are hopefully going to go right through this agenda. So anyway, here we go. Folks.
Would you like my copy or? No.
There. Those are the bad ones.
Those are the bad ones.
Misbehaving.
Jacob copied a bunch.
Yeah, that's the wrong one.
Oh,
I updated it. The one that's on the website now is correct.
That's what we did.
No, it doesn't have numbers on it. I know what I can write one.
That's all right.
That's right. There's a whole pile of it that don't have that number in it.
but I think we have that.
That's
I
the
don't
one.
need it.
I printed that off like 3 minutes ago.
Oh, okay.
Should we break for commercial?
Jacob needed a pregnant pause anyway. Get it?
I'm ready. We're going.
We're actually live.
This is live.
This is a leg.
You are filmed doing this.
I can't do much if you curse though, so.
Yeah.
That
5-second delay.
Okay.
Okay, Aida,
Yes.
Sylvia is absent. Steve,
Here.
Sean,
Here.
Evan will be absent.
All right, moving on to 1.3, approval of the minutes of August 13th, 2015.
So moved.
Second?
Roll call.
Steve,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
Aida.
Yes. All right, those minutes were approved. Okay, I'd like to acknowledge the people who are present and welcome you here this evening, as well as our viewing audience. We are going to go down to communications, presentations, and reports. Anybody have any communications to report?
Yeah, I just want to introduce the Board of Education and the community to Shannon.
I'm so sorry, I was watching you guys.
To Shannon Wilson. Yeah, Jacob, do you mind putting the camera
Sure.
on Shannon and she can say hi? And this is Shannon Wilson, everyone. Say hi.
Hello.
Shannon Wilson is our new halftime aide that was hired to work at the high school, and she's working in Joni Chick's room and work with those kids and doing a wonderful job. And she didn't get a chance to come to the last board meeting, but we definitely wanted her to come and meet you all tonight. And Shannon's got lots of experience as a reading teacher and done a ton of work around that her whole career in several different states, including Baltimore, Maryland, Tennessee, and West Virginia most recently. And it's got some really interesting stories of her history around these places and where she's been. And she's really a comedian too. You may not
Well, we'll see it momentarily.
Yeah, do you have anything to say to the people of Yellow Springs?
I'm just really happy to be here. I'm really impressed by everything that's happening in Yellow Springs, and these project-based learning activities blow my mind, and I can't wait to be a part of them.
Awesome.
I'm headed to Chattanooga in the morning.
You are.
Is that Tennessee area where you were?
I was up way in the mountains.
Okay.
Close, Knoxville. This is Knoxville.
And of course, we're going to go through, I think we're going to go through the Knoxville route versus the Nashville side.
Tellico Plains,
Okay.
the gateway to the Smoky Mountains.
Yeah, I've been there.
Have you been there?
I have. I didn't stop.
It's very,
I kept going, you know.
very different from here.
Yep.
Nice.
Well, welcome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
I appreciate the opportunity.
Sure.
great. Yeah, thanks for coming this evening. Okay, 2.2, any community comments? I don't think so. All right. 2.3, schools in action. 2.4, administrative reports. Who's
All right, who's gonna go first? Thank you, Shane.
I'm gonna go first, Tim?
Yeah, I'd like first. So to take a look on the screen, we have pictures of the hard work done with some of the gym renovation. and maybe that's too strong of a word, but we got the floors resurfaced, restained, and you can sort of see just glimmer, and it's gorgeous. A big bulldog in the middle, YS inside the paint, and then the three-point range is like a different shade of stain. You can see the volleyball court lined up in there as well. And then if you look over on the right-hand photo, there was a long-time mural there of a ferocious bulldog
Yes,
charging
yes.
down mascots from other teams. And those teams were no longer in our league.
We ran him out of town.
We ran them out.
Mission accomplished.
So we thought, since we've finished that task, we painted over it and put banners of our current league teams in there. So it's definitely a classy looking joint in there now. A lot of nice victories already. Our girls volleyball team is leading the league, undefeated. It just beat Xenia Christian in 5 sets just the other night. Great game. And then all the padding around the whole gymnasium is being replaced as well. Part of the cost-saving part was that we would install it ourselves. So the padding is coming shortly this month, and we put up on the walls by Craig Carter and other maintenance folks here. And then it'll be a nice refreshing of it all. So I appreciate everybody's support on that piece. The second element is well, actually, let me tell you something about that happened today. As you know from previous months, we're part of a TEDx Youth at Dayton thing that's scheduled for September 25th at Wright State University. Not the Nutter Center, but something equally nice. And so there are 5 schools involved in it. We're one of them. And each school has 3 spots allocated to their student body to speak at the TEDx event, at the youth event. And so we had our 5 students who worked on this through the summer and through other kinds of feedback sessions along. They gave their presentations, their TED Talks to the entire student body today. Mara had a chance to be there. From what other teachers said, they said it was profoundly respectful culture and environment there of kids paying attention and supporting really these truly fearless thinkers standing up in front of their colleagues, speaking passionately about something they cared about. And so we've got kind of a tough decision to figure out which are the 3 that we're moving on for the event itself.
So you were the judge for that?
Eli Hurwitz, Beth Lutz, and myself.
Yes, okay, okay, yeah.
So anyway, it was really neat, and just and there'll be tickets for all board members to be able to attend that event on September 25th. It's a daytime thing, 9 o'clock it starts, and it ends at about 1 o'clock along the way. And again, Sean and part of the regular TEDx Dayton advisory board has helped sponsor the license and things along the way. So we could have done it without them, but it's really shaping up to be, I think, a real terrific fun event.
We had our steering committee meeting, what's today? Thursday?
Yeah.
On Tuesday, and we had an update on the TEDx Youth and how it's going. And so here's some inside information. Don't tell anyone. There's a chance that one of the TEDx Youth speakers will be featured at TEDx Dayton on October 16th.
Yes.
We would love to do that.
Yes.
And so it's a matter of, I guess, the quality and interest of both the speaker and their talk. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I hope at least one of the 5 schools delivers somebody that can make it to that.
Yeah. Hope so.
So the other piece is the other document. Kind of a strange title, PBL Roots, Shoots, and Student Leadership. As you know, as administrators, we're all actually responsible for doing and attempting to develop 2 PBL projects ourselves. And so Mario and Matt and I think Donna's getting into it as well. We're trying to figure out what to do. So mine is, in essence, making sense of a grant that we're a part of. And I may have mentioned this before, but it's a grant that Mario kind of brought in for us. And it's partnering with Perry Local and Wickliffe City Schools up in northeastern Ohio and Lake County. And so Yellow Springs is involved in it as a partner. We're actually going to be doing a 2-day symposium with about 50 students and 10 teachers, introducing them to PBL and kind of what it feels like to be in the middle of it. And we'll be taking 10 of our students up there and some coaches from our area to go kind of support this piece. And so it's really exciting. We just got off a Google Hangout today with our partners up there. They like what we're presenting, and we're helping them sort of make sense of the grant a little bit more. You know, when you write a grant, sometimes you write a grant, you don't quite know what you're putting in there. You do. You know it's going to get, you hope it's going to get funded, and then the realities of implementation, you know, kind of came in. So we're really excited about it. I kind of sort of put this in some sense because while we've been working on this, we weren't really sure if students were going to come on this or not going to come on this. It's an in-state overnight activity. So it's not a senior trip, it's not a trip to DC or anything like that, but it is something I wanted to put on your radar. It's tentatively scheduled for October 20, well let me take off the tentatively. It is scheduled for October 22nd and 23rd. We know about as much as what you have up there. So we, our pitch for the 2 days of what it would look like, they thought was terrific, and it's all of our coaches' work. So they're doing a great job kind of leading the stuff, and we're all developing our own internal, you know, kind of skills and competencies on this, both students and adults in the building as well. So it's a pretty cool thing, and we're pretty excited to sort of see where it takes us and challenges us.
That's great.
Yeah, bringing in a little bit of money. So there's money budgeted for this, and it's not a ton of money. We got to pay for kids' hotels or whatever it might look like. And so, but it's the start of, I think, the board's vision and Mario's vision to maybe standing up a teacher training center. And I think, you know, quite possibly there's potential that we'll actually train their 2 districts for over 60 teachers in a way that we've kind of been trained along the way. And in which case there might be another revenue stream for that. So it's rolling, and we got to worry about, I think, coach capacity.
Right. That's an issue right now.
And so it's sort of trying to balance and hold back, but recognize that if somebody doesn't do it, and in fact, this is kind of what they said, you know, we wanted to bring High Tech High, and we wrote the grant for that, but you know, a quarter of the money disappears with just airline tickets for them coming out. So the idea of sort of being a Midwestern draw where people can travel is a interesting and intriguing sort of model, I guess.
So MC Squared it's supposed to be a great school. It is a great school in the Cleveland area. It's a STEM school, and they've actually been featured in a number of books across the country. They're part of this grant as well. And the original thought, in many ways, stop me when I mess up here, was that MC Squared was going to be one of the primary presenters of professional development because they're, in theory, really good with, you know, project-based learning. And it turns out, you know, after visiting the school and some of the other folks who saw them, that they're really good at a number of different things. They're a very good STEM school, in the truest sense of the STEM word. Not necessarily a real good, not necessarily a project-based learning school in the way that we are sort of presenting it, in the way we look at it. And so Wycliffe and Harry recognized that and decided to turn to us to kind of be the leaders with this project, even over MC Squared. And if you know the recognition MC Squared has gotten in the education community, it's significant across the country. And so for us to be called on over at MC Squared to do this work is pretty powerful, and it says a lot about what we're doing and what our teachers are doing. And because MC Squared is, it's considered probably the #1 most creative and amazing high school in the state by many across the country. And so for us to be doing what we're doing is pretty impressive. Be the featured presenters. So I think that's a feather in the cap of our kids and our teachers at the high school. So.
Great.
Is that an accurate statement? I mean,
That was well stated.
All right, you're
Thanks.
finished? All right, thank you. Thank you. All right, who's going next?
You want to go next?
Yeah.
Mine's probably not as interesting, it's a little more just the basic information.
Here we go.
Alright, I wanted to let you know about some new staff that is through our contract with Clark County ESC support staff. We have a new OT, Tracy Cooper, a new OTA, Wendy Fetters, and then a new physical therapist, Nicole Reminder. And I looked through just to see about how many students. We have approximately 100 students, give or take, receiving special education services. So I thought I'd just let you know an idea of how many we have. The one big issue right now is we'll probably have to apply for a waiver. I have to call OD and give them our information, make sure we do, but it looks like we'll have to apply for a waiver because there are certain rules for the age range you could have on a caseload or within a certain instructional period, and we happen to have, just by 2 months, a non-compliance. I think it won't be a problem, it's just a little bit of paperwork. The only issue with it is that usually when you write a waiver, you have to write into the waiver some parameters that will guarantee that you don't need a waiver again next year. So we'd have to make some decisions that, staffing or whatnot, unless somebody moves, which isn't likely. So I'll be calling and figuring out that process. Then the other thing, we got our annual special education rating for 2015, and there's 2 pieces of data that are reported a year. One is the annual rating that comes out, and it's sort of a summation from last year using the previous year's data. And then there's another piece of information. All right, see, go back. There you go. This is just a snapshot of our information. We met requirements, our actual right there at the bottom. That's what we got. They look at 7 compliance indicators and they assign points. We got 4 points on all of them, and so we met requirements. If you go to the top, our options would have been meets requirements, needs assistance, needs intervention, or substantial intervention. And substantial intervention is where you can have sanctions against your Part B special ed money. So we're fine. We did wonderful in all areas. The areas, the compliance measures are at the bottom here, and in the bold is our results. Where it says on R, it means that we didn't have a group size high enough for what they collect data on, because we're a small district. The numbers are ratios, like the disproportionality in special education. That's looking at different socioeconomic and cultural data to see if it's disproportionate. Are we disciplining more kids that are in some of those categories than not? Are we identifying more kids? We didn't have enough for the discipline. We do just fine as far as identification. Some of the others are more compliance issues, having things done on time. There's a lot of rules with special ed, and that's what most of these are. In the end is an audit finding, and there was nothing significant. So that's basically the one measure, and like I said, it sums up the information. They use the 13-14 data for your 2015 in the report. And then we'll get another type of report if you go down to the second page of that handout. In November, we'll get a state performance profile, and it's on these indicators, and we'll get ratings for these indicators. So I just wanted to let you know about that, if you see that information, what it is, and have some background. So, sure. And then if you go back to the report, I wanted to mention some of the trainings. There are a lot of required trainings and maybe student-specific types of trainings that come along with special education. So fitting those in, I know a lot of our time is dedicated to project-based learning, so I don't want to pull teachers out of those trainings, but also there's some things we have to do. I just went today for the update on IEP compliance, so I'll have trainings with those, try to maybe get those done throughout the year at staff meetings. We also need to do first aid and CPR for assistants for some of the kids that they're working with. It would be important to have that. CPI, which is a type of behavior and crisis management intervention, is also something that most of our folks should have every year. And I'm a trainer, but we'll have to find some time to do that. We also had our new school nurse, Tara Craig, provide some specific training for both the regular and special ed staff working with some of our kids that have severe medical needs, and she did a really nice job. We also have the Miami Valley Regional Center Autism Coaching Team working with some of the staff at Mills Lawn, and they've given us some resources and different ideas to work on helping students, not only the student they're focused on, but for the whole class, with emotional regulation and just general classroom management supports. So they've been out and they'll continue coming out regularly. And then also, I know that previously there were parent coffees, and that's something our parents are used to, and I'd like to meet some of them, so I'll be scheduling one of those.
Parents really seem to enjoy those and appreciate those, especially early on in the year.
And then for technology, I just had that we ordered 115 new Chromebooks. So the approximate total that we have ordered over the past couple of years is 375. There are also 24 Chromeboxes, which aren't standalone devices, but again, to create a lab at the middle school. Instead of, usually when you get Chromebooks, you need some method to store them and charge them. Carts are kind of expensive, so we're looking at maybe doing some creative things. I know they had a project-based learning activity last year to build a cart, but we're looking, since we have some new ones, we'll have to, especially Jacob is looking for ways, because we do have to charge them and store them and keep them secure. Jacob also chose a new company to buy a server and software, such as our Windows software, in order to allow us to push software through the server instead of what we had to do before, which was install it on each device, which is not so efficient. So going with a different company allowed that to happen. And Jacob's been really busy at the beginning of the year. He had to get all the staff computers and laptops out and get their login information. As regular maintenance, I'd say about a portion of them, a rolling portion of them, are kind of reset, re-imaged, cleaned up, and every year, and that's just part of regular maintenance. That's all completed. Has all the parents' progress book login information is now complete, and then he's working through the student logins. Right now, it's a process where the students have to kind of opt in and return paperwork, and as it gets returned, they can be set up with their login information. So the other thing that's big this time of year is uploading all the new student information. Every year it needs to be uploaded. For every different time there's state testings, there'll be another layout to upload. There'll also be uploads for any of the programs we use for just within the district. So that's kind of something that happens at the beginning of the year. And then district is looking to do communications via Twitter, so kind of getting some of that access to the communications person would be important, but also letting us know how that would work with the filter, particularly for Twitter, so that we're not getting, we would lift a filter to allow those communications and just to make sure that goes the way the administration wants that to go. So those are kind of like the big things that are going on with technology right now. And then I thought I would just share some preschool information. I don't think anyone usually in the past has shared preschool information. Yellow Springs contracts the Greene County Educational Service Center to provide the required public preschool service. All school districts have that. And I work with that program. The teacher is Janice Kubuski, and she's also a community member. She has been wonderful, helping with everything. She schedules, at the beginning of the year, they start a little bit later than the school year because she schedules a home visit or a phone conference with every parent to give them information and just to meet the student, especially the new students. She had 2 open houses on August 20th, and then we also got a new preschool assistant. Her name is Melissa Davis. There's also a part-time, long-term sub that we have in the one class or half-day classes 4 days a week due to some challenging students. And the cost of that will be split between both districts. Your preschool is serving Yellow Springs and Cedar Cliff students. So that class will be split. It was for 4 students that are 2 from each district, and then depending on who needs the service, we'll either keep that extra aid, or that extra aid will be phased out. If we get a permanent aid, it would be assigned because it's charged proportionally to the district. So if it was kept for a Cedar Cliff student, Yellow Springs wouldn't be billed. If it was kept for 2 students, 1 from each district, it'd be billed half and half. So I just wanted to let you know how that works. We also have a new school psychologist. He works with the Greene County programs part-time. He worked with Beaver Creek preschools for a long time. He actually was one of my teachers in graduate school. He taught me how to give an IQ test, so I've known him for a long time. I'll only have his help for 6 or 7 days in the preschool. He'll be working a little bit more with Greenview, and he would help out with things like the preschool evaluations that happen once a month, the special education preschool screenings, and the transition. There's a lot of testing and paperwork process that we have to do to go from preschool to kindergarten. Another thing what's kind of disappointing to me was that the Head Start program is not working with the preschool program. So they allowed some students to come and have their tuition waived, so that leaves a gap for those kids. And we were looking at maybe doing a sliding scale for tuition for families that might need, because now they could still get home-based service, but they couldn't come to a center unless they went to Xenia or Fairborn or Jamestown. And a lot of people just don't have the transportation to do that. It also affected food service because they have requirements to have lunch and breakfast, so we had to get a food contract with Friends to provide snack, and it affected the transportation costs because some of that Dawn was able to bill. So all the way around, I wasn't happy when I heard that, but hopefully they maybe would be able to come back and work with us again. I don't know what caused that change. I think it was something internally going on with them. I know the people that run those programs would go to early education meetings, and I don't think it was anything specific to our program. It was internal things on their side. So that we adjusted for all those issues. Preschool, we did it's licensed by ODE, and so we did an internal review to go through all the licensure, make sure we had all those pieces in place for when we get inspected. That should be good. And then there's a newer rating system that everybody in early childhood is required to do. It's called Step Up to Quality, and it's pretty complicated. It's a couple big binders of requirements that we're going to just systematically go through and put in place. So Janice and I are just slowly working through that, and we're working with the regional center to get that completed. There's training requirements. There's all kinds of requirements. Also, we're just trying to look at maybe streamlining some of the paperwork. There is a requirement. There's a lot of requirements in preschool. There's a requirement for a certain kind of assessment. We found out we could use another assessment, so we didn't have to have two, which is good news because the curriculum assessment we were using before was a paid assessment, and so that'll cut some costs using this program. But not using that would mean we don't have their report card generating access. So we are looking to put a new report card in place, and we found one from Fairborn and Xenia that we're probably going to tweak a little bit and use for ours, so that we could get away from paying for an assessment system we don't need. And then the other thing is tomorrow we actually paired with Greene County Board of DD to do play project training. It's called Teaching Play, and they will have a full day of training. It will count for the Step Up to Quality hours that we need, and then they will come out to the classroom, and we have target children that videotape. We already got permission and do consultation on. The Play Project is a program that works with parents, and so these kids are already involved in that program through early intervention, and they're coming to us, and it'll work on social development, and it's a very successful research-based program, so I'm really excited that we have the opportunity to get that embedded training. So that happens tomorrow at the ESC, and Fairborn, Beaver Creek, I don't know if Xenia's coming, and Yellow Springs will be doing it. So, so those are the big things going on in preschool.
How many kids are in the preschool?
You have it's ever changing. As they turn 3, by their 3rd birthday, I have to have them tested and placed if they're going to qualify. So whenever they turn 3, or we get kids that, just, I call them cold calls, that aren't from early interventions with those requirements. So you have a maximum of 16 students in each, the morning and the afternoon. And you have to have at least 6 to 8 with IEPs. on receiving special education. So, but there's also, it affects your rating on that profile. If it's not 50-50, it counts against one of those ratings that I showed you earlier. So we try to do the best we can. And then there's itinerant service, which is home-based or in a local, or like a daycare, where it's a teacher that goes out and consults with that staff and provides IEP services. So both of those are found in all the programs that are public preschool.
You were gonna ask him?
I know, that was a long time ago. I think, I kept thinking of different questions. One was, the 4.0, that's great. Seems like there's no wiggle room whatsoever. You either get the 4.0 or you need assistance. And
Well, and I think it's going to be a different grade next year as of right now, right? I mean, is that still the case, or?
No, in 2017, they'll show a projection, and they did show our projections. They're gonna add special education achievement ratings data. So for reading, math, and then third grade reading, they want to see students, they have a target, and they want to see how many of our students hit that target, and then or met proficient. So if you were proficient, we have a target that X amount each year, they'll change the target. They want X amount to be proficient if they were students with disabilities. So say they want 50% of our kids to be proficient in reading. They'll look at our numbers, and if we're under 50%, then we wouldn't get the full points. So they'll do that for reading, math, and then they're going to guarantee. They gave us projections, we met it, and they'll give us projections again, but it'll be for the 2017. So we have 2 years to watch progress, but ours were fine. They did give us that information. We would have gotten full points if it was 2017, and that was when we COVID.
And then, so the waiver, I assume they accept the waiver if you apply for a waiver, or is that?
What were you referring to?
You said we had to apply for a waiver
Earlier about the
because.
Every time I've turned one in, they have, but they made us make a statement as to how we were going to either increase staff or rearrange, or what it was, a statement, whether it would be someone's graduating, which that's not our case. So that's the only thing. I don't know if that's still one of the requirements. I acutely remember that part of it when last time I wrote one was a couple of years ago. So as soon as I find out, I'm also going to just I want to make sure to talk to somebody to make sure that we absolutely need one. It's only for certain portions of the day, and it's only for 2 months, so we're very close to, and it is the best grouping. I mean, otherwise, the student would be in the best educational setting. So if you're writing the waiver, it's just to be knowledgeable that you might have to say now something that you'll do next year.
And if you remember, this is the result of the multiple disabilities classroom. That was, we had a challenge about a student moving either from staying here or moving up to Jody's classroom. And then we thought that we need to have the waiver, and then we have to keep researching the law some more, figured out that there's a little technicality that technically is that ties us to it now, so.
I'll go over the details with whoever I talk with, just to make sure that if they happen to tell us we don't, that they would email us, that person would email me that. Because like I said, it's not for a whole day, for a whole self-contained classroom, it's a certain portion of the time, and it's not a caseload issue, it's just an instructional period issue.
Do you have any? Just a comment. I mean, preschool is such an important subject, and I think it would be good for us to even talk about it in the future when at the state level there's so much money that's been put into it, and we have so many different preschools in this town, and how one is selected over others, how others might want to work with the schools, how that all fits into this picture of this very tiny town with 4 preschools I can think of right off the top of my head, let alone all the in-care stuff that's going on. Like how that all fits together as they feed into Mills Lawn, and if there's a way for them to be working.
Well, I know our itinerant teacher would go to any of the private, non-public school environments if there was somebody there that qualified. Otherwise, I wouldn't have a whole lot of contact with them. I mean, over time, you just get to know people that are around just from different meetings.
And how do they know if they qualify though?
Because they come and we do an actual MFE testing.
But
it's a
so
little
they
bit
would have to
different.
come to qualify?
Yes, they are
to then-
they either come birth through 3, early intervention, Help Me Grow, early intervention, refer students to us, and that starts a timeline. So I have a transition meeting, and then it'll start a timeline where I have to have them placed by their 3rd birthday if they're going to qualify. And that's something that is reported on those indicators. That is an actual indicator. When you have to be 100%, there's no errors on that allowed. And then the other ones would be simply people call. So people call their doctor, so, or their neighbor or somebody says, oh, you can get, don't go to Children's Medical Center, you can get speech therapy through your school district. And they're, oh, call. And so then they call, and then somehow they get my number, which I did ask the ESC to give me a voicemail number because I get those, and then we schedule them. I try to coordinate it so that it's only once a month because I don't have a psych all the time to help put those reports together, so I do. And I just schedule, once a month, hopefully hitting the 3rd birthday, and then the cold calls get scheduled in, and then we do the evaluations. We'll do 3 on the 18th, and maybe a 4th, and then a week later we'll do all the reports and the IEPs. And then I have them start right around their 3rd birthday.
Thanks.
All right, thank you. Okay, Nat.
Let's see what's on my report.
Great start.
Great start. So yeah, the report's there, and there are a few things I want to point out. I guess one thing that I want to share is because, it reminded me when Tim was talking about how we're starting to dip our toe into this professional development and training and getting our name out there in other ways. I've had 2 recent interactions with parents who are interested in moving to our school district or coming to this school. And one of them was today. It was a call from California. She lives in Los Angeles. She said, I go to a school that's a project-based learning school. I used to live in Dayton. I did some research real quick on the web, and I found your school district. I found your school. And I was like, okay, so that that seemed pretty interesting that she was able to find us, and I had a really long conversation with her, and all the things that I told her. She was like, I'm just so excited. I can't believe you guys are doing that in Ohio. I thought when we moved back to Ohio, I wouldn't find anything like what we have out here in LA. And so I thought that was really cool. And then there was another one similar to that, a family that's moving from Illinois, and they came down and visited twice. And it's just interesting that this stuff is really starting to spread, and we know that our name is kind of out there locally and at the state level even, but beyond Ohio, and it's just, it feels like we've really got some nice momentum now. So I just wanted to mention that because that reminded me when you were talking. Yeah, it's awesome. I think I want to give a lot of props to my teachers right now, because tonight was the last classroom meeting night. It was 5th and 6th grade, and over the past couple of weeks, every classroom teacher has held a meeting, a parent meeting, to get to know the parents, for the parents to get to know them, to share curriculum, to talk about PBL, and it's an extra effort that creates really nice rapport and opens up communication, and it's at the end of the school year, anything that we do, it's busy and everybody's really tired, but like this effort, I think it really pays off, and been getting lots of great feedback from parents, and just acknowledging that that's another thing we do to help start the year the right way. PBL coaching has gone great, and I was so impressed to see our coaches coaching and really supporting, and they're in here, I'm right there, for some of the day working, and I'm seeing through the glass these intense conversations around goals, around projects. I think our coaches really are starting to shine with these opportunities to work with a lot of staff members. So each of the coaches had a full day of out of the classroom just coaching, and it was great, and I heard really good feedback from the coaches and the teachers. So that's something that's already paying off really well. And 5th and 6th block schedule, I think it's going well. I think our team is working really well together. Put a little picture up there about, it wasn't a PBL, it wasn't a project, but it was a beginning of the year, building the culture, teaching about the 4 C's, setting up the learning environment, lots of collaboration between all the teachers and the students, communication, brainstorming, critical thinking, all those things were coming into play for them to talk about how they want to learn this year and what they need in their environment to learn. So I thought that was a nice effort and pretty successful to just get our kids thinking and our teachers teaching about PBL skills right from coming out of the gates. So those are some things that are going on.
Great. Great, thanks. All right, we are on to Treasurer's Report. 3.1, financial report.
Maybe like Matt, be brief, to the point.
Which is to say, not like Molly.
It was my hint tomorrow. I don't have a lot to report on this one because it's just been so busy in the office with day-to-day things, being short a staff member, with getting the year started with my new assistant who, while having experience from Xenia, she still is learning how we do things in Yellow Springs. So to get the new contracts up and running, the new pays up and running, the new insurances and all that, we've just been very, very busy, and it's been just a lot of craziness and business at the beginning of the year, and to be short someone in the office has been really hard for us. So everything that I've done has just been very last minute and thrown together. We received our real estate tax collections for the second half of the calendar year. They were a little bit lower than what we received at this time last year, but typically our higher collections are when the tax bills go out in January and people pay their entire tax bill, so you can't really gauge, you know, where we're at with fiscal year just yet until you get those January collections. So I'm not worried about that yet. And it wasn't much lower than what I had anticipated anyway. We received our semi-annual casino tax payment. That was $18,154. And I thought, well, I'm going to start tracking that the way that I do our income tax collections and kind of make a history so we can see every time I tell you, you know, what it's increased by or what the anticipated increases were that we haven't gotten yet. And you can see this time that, it must be refreshed or something. I put all my stuff out there this morning and afternoon. I have a new board agenda that had the numbers on it.
There it is, treasurer down at the bottom? Yeah. No?
No, it's,
No, that's not it.
It says financial report.
not one, but there it is.
Go to the left, two to the left, down,
Down.
down. There you go. It's like Hollywood Squares.
I really, can you guys come with me to work every day?
If you go to the very last page, just to briefly look at the casino tax collections that we have received so far to date. We've been receiving them for 2.5 years now. This was expected to be at least doubled by now. They fund us per student based on the number of students that we have. But as you can see, it just has hardly increased at all. The second payment that we received was the biggest jump. Other than that, it's very back and forth. Our casino collections still just are not doing what we had hoped that they would do. So there's raw numbers, and I'll keep that spreadsheet going and keep reporting on that. And the funny thing is, I mean, I have not heard, and we usually get email communication about what the anticipated figures are from the Ohio Department of Taxation, and I have not received anything for probably a year. They're hardly even talking about it. They're not making any projections. They are just kind of going with it.
You were concerned before that?
Revenues are down.
Are way down, they just reported that for last month, was that August? Was that?
Yeah, I don't know if it was a monthly or quarterly, whatever it was.
Right,
Yeah.
yes, that's why they're not telling you.
Right. And the sad thing is, this was, of course, nothing is ever new money. This was supposed to replace some of the money that they were taking away. They knew that, the state knew they were gonna lower our reimbursements for our
Right.
tangible personal property that we lost. And that was gonna subsidize some of that, which for us, that was like over $400,000. It wasn't supposed to be a direct dollar-to-dollar subsidy for that, but, you know, only receiving $18,000, $36,000 a year on an $80 to $90 million budget. I mean, that's just, it's nothing. It's just not really doing much of anything. So we'll have to see how that goes if they end up trying to come up with something else. The only other thing I want to report on, well, I'll report on my appropriations, is the kindergarten, is the grants that we received for the month, and I don't want to put the principals on the spot, but I think these ones are pretty easy. Matt talked about it over the summer, actually. They call it, when they funded it, they called it kindergarten play project, but it's a playground. And that's
It
when
was
they
for
did
the
the,
signs
yeah,
and-
and if you just want to briefly say what they, because now they've done it all, haven't they?
They've got a little bit more to spend. So basically it funded the making of the signs, the posts and everything that, and Craig Carter actually put them in, but so that was what they spent the bulk of the money on. And then they have a little bit left over, and we just asked if we could, because there's nothing else they need to do with the project really, but we asked, can they enhance the playground by buying some more playground sand? And the YSCE said, yeah, that falls within the enhancement of the playground piece, so they're gonna spend almost all of it. If I send back just $30
You know I like it when we
maybe,
spend all.
that's it. But they're getting like 4 tons of sand to help out the sandbox out there. So, but the bulk of it was the signs, and that was the main project, teaching the community how to treat the playground.
Okay, the other grant we got was, Mr. Mayor wrote a grant for just new music stands. They just needed new music stands, and it was over $2,300, but he either got the PTO or the music boosters. Somebody paid for the difference. It was several $100s on top of that, so he got to replace all of the stands, so he was very happy about that.
Great.
And then food for thought is, I don't know that we've actually talked about this, and maybe we should just,
We have.
for this, okay.
It's the ninth grade food project.
Right, and they've received a lot of grant funding. You see a $5,300 grant and a $3,000 grant, and then I do believe we have some matching money in some of those grants as well, so it's gonna be probably an over $10,000 project for what they're doing, so, I don't know if anybody has any questions on that, but I just wanted to show you the money that they have gotten so far to help with that.
And important to note that all 3 of these grants are from YSCE, the Yellow Springs Endowment for Education, which we're very happy to hear and we're thankful for. Martha Holden Jennings contributed a significant amount of money as well to the Food for Thought grant. So we appreciate all the support from both the YSCE and the Martha Holden Jennings Foundation.
Okay, and then on the agenda for your approval is the appropriation budget. Basically what I have in there right now is I just did not have enough time to get all of the budget into the computer system, run the reports, and put out what our budget's gonna be for the year. So this is pretty much where we ended up last year with a few modifications that I've done. I'm gonna do the 5-year forecast and the actual appropriation budget at the same time in October, and I'll go over that in far more detail in October to show you, because we do have some, I just didn't want to willy-nilly this budget and throw it together, because we have had additional staff members, and there's just some very important things that I really want to make sure that I get in there and get in there correctly before I put it on the table for you, so you can see what the budget amount is. So I'm just asking you tonight to basically buy me a little time. If it wasn't for the holiday and us being short-staffed, I would have been able to get it done, but there was just no way, and today I just said, I don't want to throw something together and try to report on it tonight and then have to change everything in October, so, and I don't like to make mistakes on it either. I just think it's way too important. I need to get this budget in first and as perfect as I can get it before I can do that 5-year forecast and work forward from there, so. That's what's on the agenda for this one.
How about if I go
Do
ahead and
that
vote
first?
on that and then.
Okay, fine.
All right, so 3.2 fiscal year permanent appropriations. This is our
So moved.
Second.
2 are on to the.
Second.
Sean,
Yes.
Maida,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
thank you.
Okay.
So before we move on to items 4, Dawn, I have a request that I'd like to make for future board meetings, and I want to do this in a way that does not make your life any unhappier than it already is. But I will speak for myself as a board member that I have some concerns about our mounting legal costs, especially over this year, and I wonder if those could be reported out publicly to everybody so that we're all aware of how much money we're spending on lawyers. So I don't know if that's something, maybe if the October meeting, we really need to look at the budget stuff that you're going to be putting together. Maybe we could think about this for a November meeting that we could, or even an end of year meeting, we could talk about what if we spent over the last, what would it be, about 15 months worth of stuff. I just think it's important for the community to recognize what we've been spending on lawyers. And so again, if that's not too onerous, I'd like to make
No,
that
I've already
request.
done a historical spreadsheet for
Okay.
that I had all the way through May, I think our last May
Great.
billings. So it's just a matter of updating it.
Great, and as I said, I'd like to report it out.
Yes, sir.
So, thank you.
And you're suggesting we hire a lawyer in-house based on the fees?
I'm available. And
Con.
That's right.
Well, I appreciate that, Steve, because I think, as you've mentioned before, we do have fiscal responsibility here, and it's important for the community to know and understand what's happening, and I think this has been somewhat atypical. I think it happens, my tenure as a board member, it's happened, but this has been,
Yes.
very serious, so. And thank you. Okay, superintendent update.
Okay, so I'm going to start by talking about the waiver update. So we are not giving up on the waiver. We're still persisting on, as you know. We had a meeting about a week ago, maybe a week and a half ago, up in Columbus with this group of waiver districts again to kind of keep pushing on with the work. And
Are all those other districts exactly in the same boat that we are as far as the waiver goes? Are they all sort of stalled at the same
Yes.
place? Okay.
yes,
Sorry.
we're all stalled at the same place. And we were told up till that meeting that we were waiting for Ohio to get their regular No Child Left Behind waiver approved, which is hard, it's confusing now. And that has been approved conditionally by the federal government for 1 year, which is interesting. So now that that's been approved, the next step then was to push now, and we've gotten assurances from Doug Carpenter, who is the new ILN director, but he works directly for the ODE, and he's been working for the ODE for a long time. And, well, not for a long time, he's been working very closely with Dick Ross for a while now as a director in the department. Doug's a great guy. But he has assured us that by the end of September, he will submit our waiver applications to the federal government and start to work on negotiating with them to get this going. And the bad news is it's not going to happen this school year, but we think next school year is what we're looking at. So it gives some time for Doug to really work on the negotiations. There are some folks at the National ILN who I've talked to, who I connected with Doug, and Doug and Jenny have been working together to help orchestrate this, because she was at the table with New Hampshire when they got theirs approved. So she knows what she was a witness, so she can say, well, here's what got through for New Hampshire. We can probably do something similar for Ohio, or why can't we do something similar for Ohio? And so the hope would be that we can do the same. There's a couple sort of wrinkles in the challenge right now. I think one of the first is that there's just got to be so part of it is building capacity amongst the districts. There's a pretty good recognition amongst the districts that folks like Yellow Springs and another district up north, I'm trying to remember the name right off the bat. Okay, I'll remember later. And that are farther along than other districts in this kind of work. And so our instruction makes us have the capacity to be able to do performance-based assessment in a way that's meaningful, and we really have an impact where a lot of other districts don't necessarily have this infrastructure in place to do that. And the question is that going to be an issue with the feds? And so Doug's a little worried about that, but we think we can kind of push through it. There's some discussion among superintendents in this group to form a governance structure within the ILN that sets up an opportunity for superintendents and districts to sort of come to consensus on issues a little faster and move forward. I'm a little concerned because probably the first half day of that 2-day meeting we had was really rehashing things we had done in May.
Mm-hmm.
And I think everybody kind of felt concerned about that we'd already made decisions in May, that we were once again debating as if they were decisions, but we'd already made those decisions. And so we had to really kind of get everybody back on track. And actually, I think most of the districts were all on the same page. We were all there, we all remember what had happened, in May. And so it was just kind of trying to move the meeting along quicker. And so I think collectively things are going better. We are excited about what's going to happen, and I'm very positive about it. I do think we have a really good chance of making this happen. If you know anybody in the Obama administration, please give them a call and tell them to talk to Arnie, and let them know that this is a problem, and hopefully Arnie can loosen up the reins a little bit and allow for innovation.
Yep.
Arnie, if you're listening, you're paying attention to Yellow Springs, we want you to come talk to us, come see what we're doing. You're welcome to come visit anytime you want. To that end, Doug Carpenter and a few people at ODE are going to be visiting us soon, and they're going to check out what we're doing in Yellow Springs too, and so I'm really excited about that trip specifically because we've invited them a number of times. This is the first time ODE is really going to come visit us, the high-level officials within the department, and maybe even Dr. Ross, our superintendent, might come. That would be kind of cool, and check out what we're doing as well. Grant writing.
Well, hang on a minute. Just speaking of Arnie, he's going to be in Cincinnati,
Ooh.
I think, on the 17th, and I was wondering if you could get yourself invited.
Right.
Where's he going to go?
I'm not 100% sure, but he's going to be, I believe, his only stop is going to be there.
Interesting. In
Cincinnati.
Cincinnati.
I think it's on the 17th.
September.
September,
So that's
yeah.
next week.
Yeah.
Cincinnati Public Schools potentially, or?
I just
That's
saw
gotta be up
it.
on the web
Yeah,
somewhere.
you gotta be able to
Tim's
find
over
it
there.
somewhere.
Trying
I've
to get off the
developed
Zappos
a
page.
pretty good relationship with a lot of Cincinnati folks, but especially I recently developed a relationship with the Cincinnati Federation of Teachers president. So that might be somebody that I can really call on and connect with to, especially if they're meeting with Cincinnati.
Yeah,
That would be
yeah.
an interesting
Yeah,
connection
that's
to
yeah.
try to see if we can get in and work on that.
Cincinnati State.
Cincinnati State.
There you
Okay.
go.
Interesting. I wonder what that's, probably some kind of career education
Probably.
connection.
Right.
Which is wonderful.
Community college push.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so that's a great idea. I think we should try to see if we can figure that out. I don't know if I know anybody at Cincinnati State, but I'll see what I can do.
I do.
You do? Of course you do. Yes, that's right. We do have a resource here. Well, John, is there a way you can feel around and see what's there? Let me know.
Yeah, definitely.
Um,
Does it say what date he's going to be?
I think the 17th, right?
Thursday, September 17th.
You got a week.
Who's he meeting with?
It's part of his back-to-school tour, Ready for Success.
It's got
It doesn't
a
say.
tour bus, and he's got 2 drummers on it.
Yeah, actually, this, a bus is expected to make it to Cincinnati stop at 5:15 p.m. It includes a short meeting with Cincinnati State President, Dr. Odell Owens, as well as the college's Board of Trustees and invited guests, including Mario
I'm on the list.
You gotta get on the bus.
See if you can get me on the bus.
It's about college affordability.
Right.
Okay. All right. What about K-12? Okay, so that's the waiver, and I'm excited about it. We're going to keep working. We have a few meetings, so there's a sense of organization happening too within the superintendents within the ILN at the same time, which I think is going to have some interesting traction. I think will probably help us get a little bit more of a voice and organization around things right now, especially since there's a general feeling within the department to really support the work we're doing in the districts. And so, as long as we have that goodwill, I think this is a really good chance, an opportunity to really do this work and potentially create a governance structure to really help solidify the ILN and the work we're trying to do for students. So there's a lot of conversation about how to do that. We're working through that. Next topic is grant writing. As we've talked about a few times in board meetings before, I think I've made the decision to not go with the competency-based grants for a few different reasons. Mostly, I do think we really could have a chance of getting it. I ultimately think it takes us off track right now, just slightly off track from our mission. There are pieces of it that I think are really attractive to us and are in line with what we want to do, but there are other pieces that are just not, are going to probably require a lot more effort and work than we have in terms of our capacity and our focus, and probably just too much of that, I think, for us to really step into this. So, and so I'm a little bit iffy about this, and I may kick myself in the end, but I don't think it's the right decision at this point for us. I think, we should, however, go for the straight A grant. They're going to, they've made the clear signal from the department that they're going to fund smaller grants, which is right up our alley. And, we can really apply for that. So I'm going to be talking to Linda very soon. Linda Butler, who a few of us met with through Butler Consulting. She's a great grant writer that I think can really help us in our district. And we're going to work on potentially subcontracting with either Linda's organization or a similar one very quickly, very soon, over the next few weeks, to get ready for that straight A grant as it's being released, and put an application in for Yellow Springs. And I think the application is going to be basically around building up this training center and getting it going and funding that, and all the work that's going to be involved with establishing our PBL training center here in Yellow Springs. So I think it's going to be appealing because we're looking to try to partner with some other districts potentially as well with this. Because I think the more you have as partners, the stronger your application is going to get. And certainly we think our impact is going to be pretty significant across the state. So that should be happening over the next few weeks. And then as other grants come up, I think we'll go from there as well. Administrative contracts and salary comparison study. So we have, I'm excited because we have, 4 of our administrators, if you count Don, are up for contract renewal at the end of the school year. And we have made a practice of doing what I think is a very classy move and a very, really a great decision that shows care and respect and value for our administrators by trying to act on contracts in October. And some districts do this and do a very good job of this. I think instead of the traditional, a number of districts still wait till March and April, which I think is a little bit late. Because if we wait until March and April on these guys, they'd probably start looking for other jobs before that happened. And I think we need to lock them up, sooner than that. And October is a great time to do that and show them that we care about them, and it, especially after 6 years in the district. And so I'm gonna.
6 years.
Yeah, 6 years it'll be this year. And so my recommendation to you at next board meeting, barring any concerns from board members, is to propose a 3-year contract for, so it'd be Tim, Matt, and Nate, and we'll work on salary adjustments because we're negotiating this year at the end of negotiations and kind of do that then. And then to try to look at a salary study. So I think Sean and I think another board member mentioned it as well, this interest in a salary comparison study, which I think is a really great idea. We haven't done much of that recently. It is tough to come by. I think you've been working with Dawn a little bit on it as well. And so the data she did share with you is very limited to some rural districts in the Clark, Champaign, Madison area. And so it doesn't really cover comparative districts to Yellow Springs. And what I'd like to see is a comparison that compares Yellow Springs, Bellbrook, Oakwood, some of these other similar districts in Cincinnati, Columbus, possibly Upper Arlington, although they're a lot bigger, so probably not a good comparison. But Grandview Heights and Marymount and some of these other districts that are similar in Cincinnati, I think that better represents the work that we do in Yellow Springs and the kinds of people we're looking for working in our district. And so probably would be, to me, a pretty appropriate comparative study to look at that and see where we are and how we compare there. So that's what I think our focus should be on, but I guess I want to hear from you, Sean, about what you think we should be looking at.
Yeah, I mean, I think as a board, it's really smart to do a salary study, not necessarily every year, whatever it is, every 5 years. I know my own board has done that. And we've only done it for they employ the executive leadership, so they did it for the leadership. So we could discuss how far down it goes. And it's the board's responsibility to do it though. Like my board did it. So she had to pay for it, of course. But they hired an organization that does this. So either because they do this in their own institutions, they know who to turn to, or we have to do research around who to turn to.
Yeah.
Whether the Ohio School Board Association does it already, or any one of those associations already do it. But I think it's the board's responsibility, and you definitely provide input around comps and all that.
Sure.
But it's, we would have to take this on, not like Dawn, can you find out what your treasurers make? Like, this, it's not your responsibility whatsoever, and it's ours. And
I think that's a good point. It does seem to me that an initial call to somebody at OSBA,
right,
we can't be the first people to have thought of this. And surely
No, right.
there's a resource out there that we could tap into to get us going. on
Yeah.
this. But it also does occur to me that, well, if we look at contract extensions in October, but we're not looking at salary adjustments until essentially the end of the school year, is
Yeah.
what you're suggesting, then that does give us the better part of the school year.
yeah, like now would probably be the time we
Yep.
start having those conversations.
Right.
And then it's a matter of, are we just looking at, like, we are
We would have to
responsible
decide,
for
that's right.
the superintendent and the treasurer. How helpful would it be to have comparative information for other administrators, for other positions across the district, for teaching? I mean, I don't know how far down
Mhm.
it goes. It's just, but I think it's just a smart practice.
Yeah.
We actually, on our, you don't have, do you submit a 990? Do the auditors submit a 990? So you don't have to do that. We have to submit a 990, and it's something you have to check a box. It's saying you have done this in the last 5 years. So as a board, you have some informed data set for making decisions around how you compensate your CEO. And I guess, I mean, that's obviously, we're private, 501c3. You're a different nonprofit category, so it's not required, I guess.
Right.
But it still seems like a smart thing to do.
Yep.
I don't know how others feel about it.
Yeah, I think it's,
Well,
I mean,
so,
we've done some variation of this at different points, but nothing else.
Well, we've sort of had, like, Mario has done the work for
Right,
us, or,
right.
you know, I mean,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not your responsibility to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, you sort of provide feedback around comps, but the,
well, so it seems to me that we need to make a decision again, perhaps in October, to go ahead and do this. I would really like to have the other board
Started.
members.
yeah,
input
yeah,
on
exactly.
this.
Right.
But it seems to me that ought to be something
Mhm.
we decide to
Right.
go off and do.
So, just, Don, can I ask you a question about this? Because one thing you brought to my attention several times is that it's so difficult to get that information because there's so many different ways people are compensated and each contract is so different. Do you have a sense of, I mean, have you ever heard of like who we might go to besides, I mean, I would go to the Ohio School Boards.
Yeah, I would
Right,
start
I was
there.
gonna say.
I mean, we used Simpson Consulting, I mean, they do this nationwide, but they might cost more, so I don't know.
Right,
And it depends, again, is it for 2 people, 4 people, 10 people?
right.
It's all public information, so it's not like it's hard.
No, but
to get.
I think the more complicated this problem seems, the more my instinct is to run somebody else to do it.
Yeah.
Right, and so I think asking somebody at OSBA just for starters, how and who.
And I would be happy to do that if you want.
Okay.
Right.
And they just have to know the right questions to ask. There are multiple
Right.
different ways to have a benefit package, and you just have to make sure that you're asking the right questions. It doesn't always make it easy to compare. It's just, the most important thing is just not to just look at salary. And then the next big benefit is a paid retirement. And that's very typical for administrators, but there are also other benefits that administrators can have. And then the
Medicaid pickup, right?
Medicare
Medicare pickup.
and then with the retirement increasing every year from 10% to get to the 14%, that made a lot of administrative contracts different because some boards decided to pick that up and others didn't. So that's a very key issue. Also with that is your salary, your retirement can be picked up and added to your salary for retirement purposes, so that if your salary is inflated when you retire, which costs the board a very teeny tiny bit amount of money to benefit the employee a lot more, but that is also a question that has to be asked. There's just multiple things, which is why I say it's not just easy to do. It would be so easy if we could just say, just tell me what your salary is or send me your salary scale, but then there's so many other things on top of it. So as long as someone's asking the right questions, or I've seen spreadsheets that are, have a column for the different types of benefits that could be out there, and if someone's answering the questions correctly, then that provides useful information. The problem is, when a treasurer sees that, because we're typically the ones who are asked, we're like, oh, this is overwhelming, I don't have time to do this. And figure, oh, they'll get enough information from other treasurers and we kind of let it go. So as long as you can get participation, and if you do it in a form of public records request, they will provide that information if they have to, but that, we always view that as a little bit threatening.
Sure.
When you word it that way.
And it gets bogged down.
Well, that'd be great if you make that contact,
Sure.
and then we might have a little bit more information for the October meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay. That's good, we're good. All right, on to the adoption calendar, consent calendar for administrative portion 4.2 through 4.3. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, anybody got any? Oh, well, Mario, you better say something a little bit about the career tech.
So how's the best way to sum this up? Well, basically, I think we were under the impression that that we would cover this career tech requirement of offering career tech in middle school as a new state law requiring that we do this in the school or as part of a program that we offer. And by career tech, I mean state's definition of career tech and licensed career tech teachers, not just a licensed teacher, but a licensed career tech teacher in a licensed career tech program. And we were hopeful that as long as you offered it in middle school, that was going to be covered. We believe that was to be the case. But I think somewhere in the cross-up between when Rick Pridemore left and the start of the new school year, we all kind of missed it, I think. That in fact, it needed to be in 7th and 8th grade. And so, thankfully, Dave Deskins caught up with me a few days ago and said, hey, just heads up, something you need to think about. And so, you have to do this by September 30th. And get it approved. And essentially, it's a waiver of a career tech curriculum and class by the definition of what folks call career tech in 7th grade. I have a problem with that because I think what we're doing with our PBL Foundations class is very much career tech oriented, but it's not in the general sense of what we call career tech under the formal definition. So, and that's what we're offering our 7th graders right now. In lieu of that. So that's kind of what this is about. We are offering 8th grade career education and career tech, and so that's a new class we're offering. We did not offer it before, and so the irony is while we're increasing our career tech options for our kids at the schools right now, technically we're not, we need to ask for a waiver for the program in 7th grade. So, which is a lot of schools are doing. It's not an issue. It's just, and in good principle, it might be the right move to make for a lot of schools too, because the more you add, the more you try to change things, the more you're sort of caught in this world of chasing the compliance and the rules and requirements of the state governance structure. So that's kind of what that's all about.
Thanks. Any other questions or anything? Okay. Roll call.
Aida?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
All right. Okay, and to the personnel portion of the consent calendar, and I think there's just a 4.5, right? This is 4.5 through 4.6.
Well, it may actually be 4.4, because I don't see a 4.4.
Oh, yes, indeed.
These don't go in the minutes, so.
Okay, that's
it's-
fine.
So it would be 4.4 only?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, and I don't think there's anything that's unusual here, so how about roll call?
Steve?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
Aida?
Yes. All right, moving on, here we go. Board communications, 5.1, small school district area network. The next meeting is on the 22nd, Tuesday the 22nd at 5 o'clock. And Donna and I can't go, so I don't know if anybody else wants to go, or we're gonna have to pass on this one as well.
I can't, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I'm good.
Well, I had a little side conversation with Aida. When this first started, they were meeting during the day. And I spent the entire day at Rittman Executive Village, which I was really glad because that was a very interesting meeting. But then they moved it to 5 o'clock. And then Aida and I did go to one meeting at 5 o'clock in Columbus, and then the next one was in June, and neither of us could make it, and then neither of us can make this one on the 22nd. And if you don't make at least 2 out of 3 of them, or 3 out of 4 of them a year, then you're not even allowed to be part of the advisory network. You have to have attendance. So we're just a little bit frustrated that they're at 5 o'clock in the evening. It's just too difficult to go. So I guess my suggestion is, since this was my idea in the first place, Mario likes to remind me, we may have to beg out. I
Where
think
is it
they're gonna be
located?
too hard.
This one's in Columbus, and originally they would rotate around, and so we
Right.
get a good sense of sort of
Right.
where everybody
Yeah.
was, and conversations then centered on that. And
And
actually,
we
we were
wanted to
hoping,
host.
we were hoping to host, but and maybe we could do that next time if we
And I
know.
think that just because
Okay.
Columbus is centrally located, it's board members who have daytime jobs, so they could leave a little bit early and make it to Columbus, but not necessarily have to take a whole day off work.
Mhm.
And it just is not necessarily working
Right.
for us or for,
And it just
Someone
kind of
who has
evolved
4
into
kids.
that, and the meeting that we were.
Right.
It's just sort of, the conversation came up, and people said, oh, Columbus, but then all of a sudden now it's become Columbus.
Yeah.
Can we nominate Sylvia and Evan?
That's a great idea.
Yeah, that's
I mean, they
brilliant.
might not be able to go, but maybe we should nominate them.
So let's see if there's any objections.
I know they're watching us right now.
They're actually kind of interesting, and, but.
yeah, I enjoyed it too. I really don't want to remove ourselves, but it's almost like if you can't have that participation level, you're just not allowed to go.
Can we file a waiver? Is that?
That is the order of the day.
Oh, you know what?
You know, I could just get a waiver.
I'd be happy to call Rick Lewis and just talk to him about it, and sort of say what our dilemma is.
Well,
and-
maybe we could have, like, I
Call
mean,
it.
it's not like they take voting members, but people who are just there to be
Observe.
spectators, and then people who are involved in it. And
Yeah,
because I would still like to go. I found a lot of the information very interesting.
yeah, yeah.
And if you do offer to host the next one, or if we offer to host the next one, that's
Right.
what's sweeten the deal there for
Right.
And
them.
we're not that far from Columbus,
No.
right, for it to be a deterrent.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Okay, well, and we have to figure out kind of the time frame of that and see if that works for you all, because we want to have you present. Right. So, okay, well, I'll call and sort of
Okay.
follow up on that. Okay, board self-evaluation, 5.2. Okay, my goodness, here we are. We were.
No, let's do this?
Yes, and that's why this is shocking that it's up again. So I think what happened was that we decided we put it off because there were 2 new board members, and we originally wanted it to sort of be a full cycle. Now we're there. My question is, should we wait until January again, which is when we submitted it? We started it last.
Well, I sort of like the idea of, so our calendar year for board members really starts in January, because that's when new members are sworn in. We'll have an election this fall, and good work with the super PAC. I think that's,
You like that?
yeah, I do, it's great. So I like the idea of doing it on that 12-month cycle, even though it does not match up at all to the academic calendar. I just think that makes a certain logical sense. So I would suggest we think about doing it again
In January.
in December, January, yeah.
I think the rationale were just, from what I remember in discussions, are 2 things. Number one, new leadership coming up, even when it is the same 5 board members, having these discussions prior to thinking about who the new president,
Mhm.
vice president may be. And then also having 2 or 3 new board members in January, that really, you miss a whole year evaluating, because
Right.
those 2 new members,
Yep.
2 or 3 new members are not going to participate in the evaluation process. So that's why we had said in the fall.
That's right, thank you. That's a
Mhm.
good
Yeah.
reminder.
Which is what we're in now.
Yeah, which is
Right.
where we are, yeah, with that.
And then, I mean, having it in December, that doesn't make sense, because,
Well, if we don't, yeah, I guess
No,
if
it's
we
the
don't
same
do
board.
it more or less in the next month, then you hit November and December holidays, and now there you are in January. So I guess it's either now or,
Or wait this year, we keep it in the tickler file and do it next year, because
Because of
we're not
that.
having anyone else run, so we
That's
know
right.
we're not gonna
Yes.
have
Mhm.
new
That's a good
board
idea.
members, and everything was fine with the most recent evaluation, so.
That's a really good idea.
yeah.
I like that idea. What do you think?
we
Yeah.
can take that. Okay.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
supportive
sounds
of
good,
that.
thank you, and thanks for noticing that, Don, appreciate that reminder. Okay, Green County Career Center report.
So, you know, I'm not sure I ever actually said this out loud, but we meet third Wednesdays, which means that by the time I present here, that meeting is 3 weeks old. Which means that when we met, they were just starting up the new school year, and they really have had, dare I say it, a bumper crop. The enrollment increase is really quite staggering. I mean, I think it's
Really?
close to 40%.
No kidding.
Yeah, I mean, I guess when we got those numbers at the board meeting, it was literally the first week of the school, and so things may shake out a little bit, but they've done an amazing job this past year with new recruiting techniques and so on and so forth, and so they're very pleased. That's the big news. The school year got off to a mostly good start, and yeah, I think Dave has, you know, I think his first year has been really quite terrific. I think he was just a great hire that the Career Center was lucky to land.
Nice.
The work, can I add the work you're doing with this aviation idea?
Oh,
that you're
yeah.
thinking about? It's
Well,
really
that's-
has potential to be a very powerful thing for the county.
Yep.
And the region in general, and Dave's got a good vision. And it's not unlike ours in some ways. It has a really interesting connection to project-based learning. So
Yep.
if it happens, it'll be pretty powerful. So.
All right, thanks. Okay, other board member items? I would like to mention that one of our fellow board members passed away in the last couple of weeks. And I'm going to extend our condolences and sympathy to the family. Dr. Angela Wright, who was a board member for 20 years, just passed away a couple of weeks ago. So just wanted to make mention of that. Do you have anybody have anything else? Okay, all right, well, there we go. Now, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right, switch one time.
When you
With
get
these
those things
fellas,
going.
we're going to
He's
draw.
fast,
First,
he's
second.
really
Yeah,
fast.
exactly.
We're just very selfish.
Just fast.
We wait for him to go.
Yeah.
All right.
Move.
Hi, man.
Aye.
So,
8:04.
I'll bet.
All right, awesome.
unless that agenda gets far too crowded. Right.